it passed 1 million people worldwide commit suicide. Boys 5 to 11 are number one in suicide. When we started a Smash Suicide campaign back in 2018, and we started using my children's book Cares to tell the story, where is that at? When have you, right? We talking about it. We put billboards all over Michigan. We put billboards in Louisiana, Chicago, the whole nine, to sound the alarm. Boys 5 to 11 are dying by suicide.
Wow.
So when you're looking for people and numbers and men, where are they?
What up, though, Detroit? It's your guy, Daryl Noodles and Nolan. And I want to welcome you all spending time with Noodles. What better place to be? Because guess what? Got an amazing guest in the studio with me. But as y'all can all see, I'm still suffering from what I experienced Sunday evening, hanging out with my good friend, Mr. Will Phelps at the Motor City Sneaker Bar. Did a collaboration with FUBU. For us, by us, if you know, you know. So, Will, I'm still hungover from Sunday, baby. So that's why I had to wear this FUBU gear into the studio. So had to give my man that shout out. But you know what? Let me get into my guest, because time is of the essence, right? As always, I've been taught this a while ago. Before you do what you do, you gotta get a little background of who you're talking to. The gentleman that I have sitting next to me, very impressive resume, but I want to also add this. I met this brother probably about 1.5 years ago. We were at a different podcast location, studio, doing our thing, and we would oftentimes have conversations. But see, God poured something into me. He was like, you and him need to get together. See, let me remind you all, God's timing is not our timing. Sometimes we want to be quick with it. That was 1.5 years ago. But today, we sitting in the studio. My man is spending time with me. Dr. Calvin Mann, national encourager. He is a multifaceted individual who wears many hats as a facilitator, podcast show, Put Your Family First, a mentor, a visionary coach, author, community activist, and proud father of 5. His life's mission revolves around positively shaping the destinies of boys and men, redirecting their trajectories toward fulfillment and success. With a rich history of coordinating recreation and mentorship programs, Calvin has spearheaded intervention strategies in various settings, including detention centers, communities, families, and schools. Since 2004, he has been a dedicated advocate for the silenced voices of children affected by suicide and violence. Calvin's impactful initiative involves placing T-shirts with positive messages of encouragement at the sites where children have tragically lost their lives, raising awareness of our collective responsibility to safeguard the well-being and future of our youth, which he recently launched Emily Apparel to inspire everyone. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Calvin Mann to Spending Time with Noodles. How you doing, baby?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good. I'm figuring some things out.
We all are. We all lifing right now, right?
I don't know. For me, it's just trying to get to another level, move another inch, move the needle a little bit more, and see how many more lives we can impact and do, and work through the processes and try to become a successful business on the scale of multiplication. You know what I mean? So
there you go.
Just working at it. There are some days you want to quit. There's some days You get to dance, but for the most part, I'm learning that it's what's going to happen is resolved around how I do, and so I'm just looking to get better.
That part, baby. You know what, man? I mentioned the apparel, and I want to understand, what does Emily, how did that originate? What does it represent? What does it stand for? Please share.
In the research, Emmy stands for Encourage Me, I'm Young. It's a long history. It has a long history, and it's
Take your time. We got time. You spending time with noodles, baby.
it started when I worked at daycare where there were all white children, and 1992, and it blew in the door. I was the youngest varsity basketball coach at Ferndale High School, and it blew in the door, and I caught the words and passed it on my uncle, and we were coaching the boys, so we came up with affirmations to shirts, and our teams would warm up in it. So it had been here, and then when I transitioned, my son was at Halley Middle School, and so I came and helped his team, his basketball team, and got involved with those youth, right there, and then in the summer of 2000, January of 2004, I had decided that I was going to start laying shirts where kids was getting killed to raise the awareness that, we were killing a lot of kids. This was happening. And that's how I started Encourage Me, I'm Young. That was the first place when I came to the community, and the object was to get to where I'm at today. But a good distraction happened, and a mom gave me a nonprofit in 2007.
Okay.
And so that led to the energy of mentoring youth and then really seeing what the problems. So each year while researching, I would discover a different problem that was happening to the boys and the men and the husbands and the fathers. And so it just kept growing, that I would say, well, if we can help this situation, maybe we could protect our girls, our mothers, our grandmothers, the whole nine. But I see that in this dynamic, we've kind of lost our way.
No ifs, ands, or buts about that. You are 100% spot on. So if someone is interested in purchasing, because I want to get this out the way, but because we're talking about it, what's your website address? If someone is willing, wanting, and needs to purchase some of your apparel, what's your website address, bro?
EMIYAPPAREL, emmyapparel.com.
There you go. And one thing about it, as I said earlier, I represent FUBU, for us, by us. You all know how I move. I like putting like-minded people in the same room with me. Right now, we're living in a time where if we as Black folks don't wake up and understand the importance of supporting people that look like us, then you stay asleep. Because I'm going to keep moving how I move. Because, see, I know one thing about me. Can't save the world, baby. But if I save one and I help another brother, I help another sister, I'm fulfilling God's assignment on my life. So, you know what, my brother, let me share this. Brother, you're necessary because you're putting in that work to address young boys becoming men and men becoming better men, okay? So, of course, I follow up, what you do on social media. And I was alarmed and numbed at the same time because you posted a video of young boys that have committed suicide. I mean, my soul was numb because the age range that you shared on your social media posts,
Right.
I mean, it alarmed me, man. It hurt. When I say my core was shook, it was.
Well,
Elaborate on that, bro.
So when in 2018, we were getting ready for Emmy National Respect Day. We have our own day, and we were getting ready for Emmy National Respect Day, and we were researching, and we came across boys 5 to 11. It's like sound alarm. Boys 5 to 11 dying by suicide. Like, hit that, I'm thinking bad link from the internet, right? But then, as my wife and I always do, we started researching immediately.
Okay.
And as we started researching, we started finding out the data, the information. We took deeper dives. We went to ACES conferences. Like, we really got off into what was really happening. And as we did that research, it became clear to me what the boys were seeing. And so if you're a boy in this environment today, as we discovered, with a 10-year-old raised his hand and said, in his opinion, that the girls were doing better. A 10-year-old, right? When he said that, right? So I brought him up so we could talk, right? And to pour in, because that can become adversarial. How the boy sees the girl.
Absolutely.
So then that could turn to some of the things that you see, right? Because what am I indoctrinated in? The one thing we indoctrinate our boys in is in violence and fatherlessness. We continuously pour into our boys the negativity of the male from the top to the bottom. So as a boy, 5, maybe 6 years old, who opened up his eyes and really could see, because kids get 85% of their brain, just maybe I don't want to be here.
Man, that's deep. You know what? That's why I wanted you on the show today. And what God has been pouring into me here lately. And when you know you have a relationship with God, and when he gives you an assignment, you got to fulfill it. And my prayer to God has always been, as I speak with my ancestors, please bring around me like-minded people to help save us. Because when you get down to it, we're doing wrong by us. That's a fact, not an opinion. You know what? I'm glad you shared that with me, Calvin. You know what? I also watched one of your clips, man, where you had a video where dad shared a story with his 4-year-old son about wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
Please speak on that, baby.
Well, you got to look at, how do I put this news, man?
Because it was centered around racism.
Well, racism is a construct that has lied to the racists.
Facts.
So racism was used to continue to marginalize people on both sides of the aisle. Racism deny you books, true information, true history, the whole nine, so therefore you will remain racist. Racists deny you on the other side for opportunity things, because race know you are of value. You can do these things. So this is why racism had to, all of a sudden, racism didn't want any competition. So the right started yelling left, woke, all of that crazy stuff. But what was really happening truly was, the fact is that the right is poorly educated.
Facts.
Right? And the left is not strong in male conversation. And so in between that, you lost and separated yourself from the dynamics that you needed. And that's how they were able to get by, because on the left, black men were already talking about what the left was not getting from, they wasn't getting from the left, the whole nine. And then on the right, they were talking about what the left was getting from the race, the whole nine. And then what happened then was, at this particular point, they decided that it was them against everybody else, because they could, when manipulation and rich and traffic, the whole nine. What does that do for the left? So when you look at the left and you look at the right, they really separated us at family. So what happens is you have these problems with what? Family. So what's the one thing that could save America, which is the one thing that built America, was family.
Yes, sir.
Racism being used is not a good tool this time at all, because it's not economics. Diversity makes more. Blue states pay more money into red states. They just took a poor example and ran at it. But everybody at the family level is hurting. So when you see the dynamics from this country, who's married more, who has more marriages, who doesn't, well, it kind of matches the economy for the same people. So marriage is a very strong tool that the culture is in argument over while the children are watching. So the mother is beefing with the father, the mother is keeping the kid away from the father's beefing with the mother. You're starting to see father shit. Like, I've been watching this for years and I've been calling it. And so the problem is that the people that's listening, they're only listening to one thing. They really don't want to solve the issue. And then so where there are a lot of good people doing good work, you can only imagine if these men and women was not doing that work, what we really would look like.
Amen to that, bro.
So when you had this suicide level and you have this misunderstanding that boys 5 to 11, there should have been a sense of urgency, but because literacy is a problem, you don't know the boys 5 to 11 is number one in suicide.
I did not know that until I watched your post on social media. And when you shared it, I'm going to tell you, man, it broke my heart. It broke my heart. One, because I'm Black. I can remember being 5 to 11 years old. And for young kids, young men, kids, however we want to classify them as, to get to a place in life where you say, I no longer want to be here. I mean, that's a wake-up call.
Man, suicide has impacted the globe. They superseded 1 million a year. So all over the world, right? And the statistics are out there, but the male suicide level for Black males, white males, Hispanic males, the seed carriers, you see what I'm saying?
That part.
We'll put these men's seeds in jars and store them, right? For the sake of, but we say we don't need them, right? So the man doesn't value his seed. So therefore, where he placed that seed, if it's not in good land or good culture, right, sometimes that seed doesn't produce what it does. The seed actually produces what you're on. So if you're on foolishness, if you was to have a child today, if you're on foolishness, what's the chances that that seed that you just planted inside the woman,
part of that DNA, foolishness.
Right. So understand that if I'm not present to cultivate that, to see that as a father, I know who this is. So, but if I'm not there to cultivate that, then you're at a bad harvest. If a farmer never cultivates his seed, do he produce healthy corn or crops?
Of course not. Of course not.
So does a father who doesn't cultivate his seed, does he produce a healthy child?
Of course not.
So then therefore you have foster care, you have juveniles, you have all these things. Why is there such a separation and a fight over our children to be mediocre or average and being placed in these systems to have to fight through 8, 9, 10 different walls just to get to a place where they have a start? But along the way, all of this is acceptable culture for them to fail. And then when they don't show up at school because a kid got to go to school and we go to school, how many times did you have to fight or pretend to fight or put up a front to just get through the school day? This is what is happening to our children because the adults in their lives are arguing in front of them and not having quality conversations nor teaching them to read. So therefore, the boy who only gets so much any damn way, right? Mm-hmm. If Black boy is 14 times likely to get kicked out of daycare, how would you expect a kid and he's in daycare to already be kicked out 14 times before he even gets to it? That kid's got to be either unprepared, emotional, or there's a problem from where he's come or what he's not taught. When we teach them, they're able to walk into these spaces and learn. Think about that.
You're right, bro. Yeah, absolutely right.
So the boys, what's wrong with the boys is what's wrong with the adults.
You know what? You mentioned something two words that sticks out to me. You mentioned indoctrination, and then you also mentioned literacy,
Yes.
reading. So one, we know as a race of people,
Right.
we were indoctrinated if we understand our history. Am I not correct?
You're correct.
So with that being said, I see quotes all the time. As a child, you're raised, you're brought up the way that you're brought up, and many of the things that were poured into us as a race of people. But when you become an adult, and this is where I want you to go next, baby. When we talk about literacy, the importance of reading, because see, reading is knowledge. Reading is understanding knowledge of self. What they kept away from us, we got to open up that book and read. So one of the things that I know about you, you're an author. How many books have you penned thus far?
8.
What was the last one that you...
The one I'm about to come on would be the 8th one. All ingredients count.
All ingredients count. Give us a peek behind the curtain. What is that going to entail? Just give us a sneak peek.
It's 10 characteristics and the quality of a journey. And it's for you to have a high appreciation factor as you go through your journey. And the examples and the understanding of the things that because I've overcome a lot of the things that I had to reap for. When the Bible tell you to reap what you sow, when you've done bad, you got your reaping season to go through. And a lot of people think just because something happened bad to this person doesn't mean that it's not part of their reaping season. Sometimes you got to go through your reaping season. You have mistreated people. You have lied to people. You have harmed people. You have backstabbed people. You have hated people. You have hit people. Like you've done things to people that your spirit says you must pay for. Mm-hmm. And so along the way, it's reaping what you sow. But if it's been good, then you will reap a good harvest. But to the conversation of literacy, right? We're doing a crowdfunding campaign. Here's another one of those things. We got 100 boys on a waiting list, right?
Are you looking at my notes already, man? Because see, that was my next question.
You had led into it, brother.
That part I did.
You did. You led right into literacy.
We like-minded.
You led into it, right?
Love this. Come on, keep on, preach to me, baby.
But right, because reading is attached to everything. And if you can't read, that means you have to be dependent on someone else. And when you have to be dependent on someone else, then it almost makes you a victim, right? But in the process, if you learn to read and process books, you get to go wherever you want to go.
Amen.
You know what I mean? And so that'll put you in places and spaces and rooms. And so we got 100 boys aged 3 to 7 on the waiting list. We've been campaigning since January. Reading is life. Our PR team is constantly got stuff on our fan page, and I shouldn't be surprised, but I am surprised by the lack of support for 100 boys on the waiting list. Again, if those boys knew, if they were watching TV, they would be asking, dang, this man and they team got a crowdfunding campaign to teach 100 boys how to read. And we just been watching this same movie for the last 40 minutes, and he already in month 3, and the people don't really want us to read.
And you know what? and what you're speaking on, Calvin, Dr. Calvin, man, I must say, let me put some respect on your name, Dr. Calvin, man. Because I always do a little homework on my guests that come on my show. God has already said, yeah, be coming on the show, but Noodles, you got to do your homework. So, and I came across your fundraising campaign,
right,
which really touched my heart. You want to take care of 100 boys, and your cutoff date is June 1st.
Yeah.
Please share what this campaign is all about. You started down that journey, but I also want to say this, before Calvin really, dives a little bit more into this, if you're watching this show and you understand the importance, it starts with our babies. It starts with our future. Nobody's coming to save us but us. Please understand that. That's why I am blessed beyond measure to have this man sitting next to me, because God's timing is perfect timing. And what's occurring in this country today, doing away with DEI, parents, you got to step up. Uncles, aunties, grandparents, y'all got to step up. I got a brother sitting next to me that's ready to pour into our young kings to get them to understand what lies ahead. So the campaign, go ahead, my brother.
So Readings in Life campaign was initiated. Shout out to Pop Speed PR, and we just been going and building. We got statistics on reading. We got statistics on Black reading. We got we're pushing this literacy piece because, again, I am shocked. If we are to be a great city, right?
Yes.
If we are to all this Detroit stuff that we say, stand up and tell them you're from Detroit, right? If we are to be, our literacy numbers must be able to compete globally. Our literacy numbers have to shift for our boys and our children. We must be able to compete globally. It is a terrible ask. It is a terrible ask when a child has to go sit in class and they can't read, have not been taught the basics. That is a flaw to the culture. So we have to make sure that our boys, our children, and the people around us, so we can compete. You know what I mean? You got to be able to compete. This is a competitive market. And so you can compete. It's a global market. And if you're not able to articulate, read, break down, get the right help, understand, have mentors, like if you don't have communication skills, right? Or even willing to learn communication skills, or really, hey, I don't know. You know what I mean? But are able to pick up books and read, like we read books, we edit. And so it's so important for us, in order for us to compete. That's one of the areas that we strongly have to compete in, not just nationally, but globally as Detroiters, as Michiganders, right? Yeah, we have 7, 8 other cities. Benton Harbor, we got these cities with poor reading levels. We got states with poor reading levels, right?
Yes.
But it should not be a cultural thing. See, I should not be saying racism in front of my son can't read.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
I cannot say racism and my child can't do basic math. You got to get in the fight. You in a dog fight every day. So if we are in that fight, these things should not be able. Racism should not be able to say, well, you can't read, you can't write, you can't. No, racism at this point should not be able to say that. And that's a cultural thing. That's before we get to the battle of racism. There's some fun. It's like me. I can't go play for the Pistons and I'm out of shape. Like the Pistons ain't about to give me a uniform and say, hey, my man, I want you to go out here and check. Right. Yeah. So how are we sending our boys and our children into a system and we don't sit down, give them time and prepare them for the fight? You know it's a fight. So I'm going to just send you out here this way and stop giving our babies video games and giving them practical books, because the video game is messing with their brains and everything is twitchy. Yes. And they reactionary. So get them books. Start them out with books. They get 85% of their brain by the age of 3. Teach them words, spend time with them, cut the noise off, spend time with them. Make sure you read books to them. Tell them stories, good quality stories. Not I got high at the what's the name story. We all got those stories.
True that.
My kids ain't heard. You remember, man, I can remember the time I ain't told my kids no shit like that.
Keep it 100, baby.
Right, because I need them to be focused on the competition. Because I have a job out here, so you don't be homeless. It's competition, brother. And so we have to prepare our kids through literacy, because reading is life. Reading is everything. Reading is your financial literacy and all.
So you said the campaign Is the cutoff date is June 1st.
June 1st. We're just trying to raise.
If someone is interested in contributing, how do they do that?
They
how
can
do
go
they do
to
that, Calvin?
They can go to EmiWorld, EMIYWorld.com.
Slow down for the people in the back. Slow down. And if you want to contribute to support this campaign for 100 boys to understand the importance of reading literacy, they can do what, Calvin?
Go to EMIYWorld.com and donate. But let me tell you how cold it is, though, the program. We use daddies.
Okay.
And we were able, in 6 weeks, we were able to get 2,200 new words into these babies and character development in 6 weeks. You know Terrence Wheeler.
Absolutely. T. Will.
So T. Will.
Absolutely.
One of my
Shout out
guys.
to T. Will. What up, baby?
Yeah. My boy Dave.
Yes,
and
sir.
Melvin.
Yes, sir.
And myself. And then we still had a 98% parental involvement. And what we saw was astonishing. So June 1st is where we want to at least be able to raise an additional. We've raised 8. We need to raise another 42 so we can actually put the full things to the program.
My math, because I'm one of them kids,
Right.
I ain't like math when you say 8, you're talking 8,000, but you want to graduate to 42 grand. Is that what
Yeah,
you're talking
we need
about?
to make up 42.
There you go.
Right? For us to just do one quarter.
1,000. Let's just raise the bar. Can we as black folks, and I say this, and you ain't only got to be black. If you like-minded and you care about what's happening within our race, then as Calvin said, go to the website. Put your money where your mouth is. We can fly out of town and hop on a plane and go support the Detroit Lions, pop bottles all day long, which I ain't knocking. I ain't knocking at y'all. But understand something that I believe is so important, and I know you're going to agree with this, man. We got to pour into these young kids versus how we moving nowadays. You feel me?
Yeah, I'm. You might a lot of people might not like what I got to say.
Say
about
it,
that.
man. Preach. You don't spending time with noodles. Say what you got to say.
I think they should tithe into these community organizations, these ones that's really, it's a lot of organizations out here fighting and scrapping just to, and doing a lot of good work. And and they don't get funding like that. They don't get supported like that. As a matter of fact, a lot of their concepts and ideas might get stolen by the higher ups, right? But in the process, there are some agencies out here doing great work. And they most definitely should be supported. And they do a lot of good work with boys and girls. And there's tremendous work being done. And so how do we value it? Whatever the case may be, there are some good stories out here doing work. And I'm not just talking locally, I'm talking nationally. I know some great people that really do some unbelievable work in this country. And I don't think that they get enough. I think it's a book called Decolonizing Wealth.
Okay.
Right? You should read that book. It's a powerful book. It dispels exactly what is going on in the nonprofit sector, the philanthropic dollars, and how much is being invested. You learn what's really going on. And so instead of them, when you going in and you paying for this, you take that 10% and why don't you take that 10% every now and then and turn it over to a community service provider, somebody is doing resources, somebody's providing diapers, somebody that's mentoring kids, somebody that pour some of that 10%, right? I think you would get a better outcome from the church and the community, because I think it'll unspoil the church to get involved with some of the community sectors. Because I'm telling you, man, to be out here, man, people out here doing unbelievable stuff, man, with this much, man.
You know what? You're right. And you know what you just said when you mentioned the black church, and one of the things that I've come to understand as I've educated myself, because I enjoy reading, I enjoy history, and I tell people all the time, and I posted recently on social media, man, I had the pleasure of meeting John Lewis.
Okay.
You know, I was at an offsite for the Congressional Black Caucus down in, I think it was Tooele, Mississippi. I was in Mississippi, right? And so I happened to be just standing in the lobby. I'm looking to my left. I turn to my right, and I'm like, oh my God, John Lewis is standing right next to me. Understanding what that man went through, may have been small in stature, but tall as a giant, standing up for equality for us, right?
Yeah.
And everything that you're saying, and this is where I try to get people to understand, you've been indoctrinated. Move away from that. Get educated. Open up that book and read. I had a friend share with me. And she unfortunately lost her daughter to senseless gun violence in the city of Detroit. And she said something, man, as I said earlier, shook my core. She said, I lost my only daughter. I have 3 grown sons, but I lost my only daughter. But it was a black person that had their finger on the trigger, that pulled the trigger to take my daughter's life. So I say all that to say, again, men lie, women lie, data don't lie. And I always tell people, don't come to me with the narrative saying, well, violence occurs whatever neighborhood or / community you live in. Because right now I'm concerned about the black race. What do you believe the solution is, Cal?
Well, we're not having babies like that either, right? You got to remember, 50-some% of men don't even have children. One in 3 30-year-olds are not having sex. We got too many kids on electronics, right? You talked about, I wasn't specifically just talking about the black church, so I'm with you. I'm talking about all of them, right? There are some churches do unbelievable work.
Absolutely, yes. Right? I don't put it, yes.
Right. But I think that would bring the community a little closer together. What I really think the problem is everything that's attached to it. So some data, right, you take on the surface, right? You take that data on the surface, but then you go look at Google Scholar. Then you travel Google Scholar, you go look at Wikipedia, you start looking down, you go down the rabbit hole. Oh, here's the author. And then you start really getting to some things. And as you're getting into these things, you're discovering like, wow, this is what's happening, right? So what we have done is we've created an epidemic of singleness. Everyone's very comfortable at being single. If you created an epidemic of marriages, then everyone would be comfortable in marriages.
Yes. Family structure
and all.
Mama and daddy are both present.
The government experimented, right, back in the day. Then they experimented again. Syphilis, then they came on down. And every time they experiment, everybody catches it. So the last experiment was the destruction of the father. Well, it's going to feed these plantations, these prisons. Let's cut out some of this education. We back to cutting out education again, right? We back to attacking books. We're back to saying, the strong left and the weak left and the strong right and the right is right and the left. We're back to the dynamics of separation.
Correct.
Right? At the same time, this is supposed to bring us all together and we're supposed to function on merit, right? Everything's supposed to be on merit. But racism has been on merit.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed.
So when we had a conversation and you go look at diversity and you see diversity, what do you see in diversity? You see a multitude of people attempting to have solutions.
Okay.
Right? When you get into the right, it's always, I'm taking something away. You're not going to get something. We're going to do this. We're going to fix the economy. And you've never fixed the economy. Never in the last 60 years, 70 years have you even produced jobs. You only came in on the auspicious of racism. And so then you got a few clowns to join the parade. And so now you got a bunch of clowns that's joining the parade of racism. In the meantime, family is being deteriorated, and then everybody's high. And if everybody's high and the family is being deteriorated, we have what we call the standby syndrome. No one wants to move and make a serious decision because I've been taught to be standby and I'm comfortable. And because I'm comfortable, I'm concerned. Then I look at the prices and I say, oh my, the prices, but I'm still going. They tested us with George Bush and then they hit you with No Child Left Behind. But No Child Left Behind was to accelerate, supposed to improve you to learn. It's supposed to be a little easier, right?
Yes.
But No Child Left Behind did not educate you. It taught you tests. So all these people took tests. And then from there, we going to slow your greatness down again because what happens is when I slowed you down and then what did I do? A couple of times I stopped you. I stopped you with 911, right? And so when we stopped, we poured some more in. So we was able to get No Child Left Behind back. Then you come past that and you get into, we have the what is this? The epidemic, right? The pandemic. And people were dropping left and right, right? And we were trying to move on. But then when you go look at the bills, all the bills in the government, we play the left and the right, right? You with me, right?
Absolutely.
All the bills in the government are passed by two parties.
Correct.
Unless you want to attempt to go at breaking laws and do executive orders, but all the bills and the laws are done by both parties.
Should be, yes.
So it's propaganda for me to say that what Biden said back in the day about the people and the drugs, and we brought up the different people and the Hillarys and all of that.
3 strikes.
Right.
Yes.
So we bring that up, but we forget y'all passed the bill. All y'all passed the damn bill.
That part.
So when you went war on drugs, all y'all passed the bill. So it's a lot of times all y'all look the same.
But they're the ones that poured the drugs into our black communities, our black neighborhoods, right?
Well, now who's the biggest dope dealer? But when we get into the process, though, you become the scapegoat. Remember the experimentation. You become the scapegoat. And so our children is flawed because the adults, us as parents, we're not on the same page with the teacher. We're not communicating one another how to improve. We literally will go in and disrespect the person that I'm asking to teach my child because I don't know. And we think that every teacher is a bad teacher when these teachers show up every day when your kids don't. So truancy is an issue, and we understand poverty is too. But back in the day, we all worked together on the block. Right now, everybody not working together.
You're right. It took a village to raise us back in the day.
Right? Today, you don't have that. Right now, today, you have the boys across the street. You over here, you work acceptable culture. You ready? I break into your house. Everybody on the block know you broke into the house. So then when I call you out on breaking into the house, you all upset. And then somebody else from over there do a drive-by on the house. You get locked up. These are actual stories. Jump in the car and you mad at the girl and her father answered the door and you shoot through the door because they told you to. You're first time. You go to jail for 20 years. You locked up. Your mama gone. You don't have a father, and you in prison for 20-some years. This is true stories.
Absolutely it is.
Right? So then where is the adulting? Right? We have behaviors that have been accepted in a lot of ways that the children are walking. So if I break into your home, you do the drive-by. Now we got issues. I never really liked them. We 3-4 decades down the road with the same issue that I hate you and his family and your family, right? And so the girls, they can't go on dates with little boys because all these boys, all the images in their head, all the violence that they're taking in because you have not valued them. So they don't even know how to think about being in a relationship and understanding the character piece for me to become a man. husband and a father. It's the character of a man that makes a man a man.
Amen.
Right? The value.
Yes, sir. Preach.
Right?
Baby.
The value. So then when you're having these conversations and people are pushing back and saying all these things, I really am not interested, if you will. Sometimes I entertain myself, but I'm moving away from it because we're really reading and looking at it from a different perspective, because I think if we could just turn a couple of these solutions on that we're talking about, that we're having this success with, I think you should be invested in what we do, because we're literally restoring families through the boy.
That part. You and I, and when I walked into the church, and this is prior to the election.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, Shrine of the Black Madonna?
Yes,
you
sir.
and I were both in attendance at, and I saw you sitting on the panel.
Yes, sir.
And we had our good brother Derek Atlas take us through what he took us through. Shout out to BA, baby.
BA, yeah.
Much love to you, baby.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, because one of the things that I really took away and I appreciate it, and I've had to just sum it up, Derek shared with us, he said Project 2025 is nothing but Jim Crow 2.0, correct?
Right.
Okay. Now, let me ask you a couple questions. I know we're nearing close to our closing time, but crab in the bucket mentality within the black race, has it increased in your opinion?
Man, I'm glad you asked that question. I seen a brother say something, and I took this with me. This brother was right. He said, it's not a crab in a barrel mentality. He said the environment is so bad at the bottom that the person is trying to get out. And as the person is trying to get out, the other people see that person trying to get out and they go to pull them down. It's not that they're in a barrel, right? Because the crabs getting out of the barrel is already difficult from his environment. It's the fact that the perception of the barrel is there. You and I, would you consider yourself the crab at the bottom of the barrel? No.
Of course not.
So you're not even in the barrel, which you were saying about getting outside of being indoctrinated. So the barrel would represent the indoctrination, but you can get out because environments, as they have said, a million tons and tons of research. If I put you in a poor environment, the chances of you, if it's 100 people in a poor environment, what's the chances of one coming out of that environment? So when one person get out, we celebrate that one person. We like, oh man, dude, remember so-and-so, he made it. We were supposed to have 80 of them, 90 of them.
Yes.
We still talking about 10, 12, 15. We were supposed to have 40 of them, 50 of them, 60 of them, 100, right? We have a low expectation on our boys. And so we use low expectation conversation. We say, he gonna be all right. Well, he just got shot. Yeah, but he gonna be all right. I got shot 7 times. I'm all right. You see what I'm saying?
Like a badge of honor.
It's a bad conversation.
Notary.
It's a bad conversation because you then convince the kid, right, that it's okay for you to go to prison. It's okay for you to have these things, right? Well, you did it. I can do it too. That's not a great philosophy. Our boys are trees, right? If you cut the tree off at the root, nothing grows. So you have a vacant lot effect in your boys.
True that.
So our boys, we call our boys goons. We got all these names, gangster names, and all these names that we have for our boys as goons, right?
Yes.
Well, a goon is a throwaway.
Mm.
A goon is supposed to sacrifice his life because he don't really mean nothing. So he's supposed to come in. The goon go to jail because he gonna lay down, right? Because you taking it for this team.
There you go, baby.
That can't read,
Yes.
or process, and in some cases, using their language to control the goon. And so the goon is just looking for love, right? So he'll go to war for you. But then what happens when the goon get murdered? Who's there for the goon? There's nobody there. When we put them on a t-shirt and we pour out liquor, and maybe that goon got 7 bodies before he got it. We're placing things on our kids and our boys a negative context. That's why I really started In Me Apparel, because everything was so negative. Our kids was wearing Scarface shirts. Well, when you look at what it means, what did Scarface do? Scarface died. He was the worst drug dealer in the game.
Slinging dope, baby.
Right? He was the worst drug dealer in the game. But we adopted.
Glorify that.
Right, and we adopted the principle. What happened behind Scarface and adopting the principle? How many guys, started taking bags, ended up, we from the streets, dog.
Right.
We know.
We all
right, so we know it's a lot of guys
that part
that got buried for doing things the wrong way.
People we grew up with, childhood friends. Absolutely.
Yeah, so in that process, that's what we call tough. Right, we tough. This is what we do. First thing we teach a boy is draw up his fist, and then tell him don't let nobody hit you.
And then we also raise our young boys. You don't cry. You don't show no emotions. To your point, you got to be tough.
Right.
Let me segue into this.
Yes.
Time is amongst us.
Yes, sir.
You got to give me like 30 seconds per response, because I want people to know how to get a hold of you.
Okay.
So, one of the things that we truly understand every time you turn on the local news, gun violence. We're destroying black families. And as I mentioned to you earlier, if you were sitting in a room with 20 young men, the ages 20 and below, if you had 30 seconds to pour a seed into them, what would that seed be? What would you tell them?
Honestly, it's a quote I have. It's discipline is loyalty to oneself. You have to get to know who you are. You have to get to know what you like. You have to get an understanding that these things are a part of life. You need to have a relationship with God. You need to pray before you leave the home, and you need to pray when you come home before you go to bed. And you should require people that's in your life to pray. And then when you get married, your wife should be required to take your hand and pray for you, to protect you as you lead on. You as a boy must become a man of responsibility and character, and then become a husband of fluidity and understanding and sternness and this trustworthiness and all that. And then you must become a father. And when you paint that seed of fatherhood, you get unbelievable outcomes.
Amen to that. Another 30, 45-second response on this topic. Because what I'm seeing more of nowadays, which upsets me greatly within our race, is men putting their hands on women, domestic violence. Just saw a news story the other day where a brother murked 2 women and killed a 9-year-old, stabbed him to death. Mm-hmm. Domestic violence with her. If you had, again, 20 young brothers in your presence, 30-second response, what would you say to those brothers relative to domestic violence?
Well, I always ask the fatherhood story. Once I learn the fatherhood story, I learn immediately what they have not had. And in most cases, when they have not had a healthy father, that is too much room for the devil to play with. And so as the devil was playing with the 20% man, maybe, right? maybe a 25% boy who's had 25. Every other weekend may be, that's a certain amount of time for a boy with his father, right? And the reason why I'm stressing the boy with his father, because if his daughter is there, he's going to do that anyway, right? But we're most likely denied access to the boy more than we are our daughters, right? Facts, right? And so that's how we destroy boys daily. So for me, it would be learning. I just need to know that you how your father. And most of the time, each room was going to raise their hand and say, I didn't know my dad, or I didn't find it. So Dave always say, my man David Patterson always say, you can't give what you don't have, right?
Can't be what you don't see, man.
And you can't be what you don't see. But in that process, in that 80% absence, you get all of those things that you see that lines up, and it just falls in that process.
All right, so we got like 1 minute, 30 seconds left, right?
Yes, sir.
So, Dr. Calvin Mann, and I'm so proud to be able to say Dr. Calvin Mann, okay?
Yes, sir.
What's the role of the black man?
Oh, we have to, every man has to become a husband, in my opinion, but not every man is a husband. And so that's to be worked out in your relationships and your journey. But once you become a father, every man that becomes a father is responsible for not just his children, but the children that comes into his vicinity. He's to be a protector of the children on the block in the community. He's to be a provider and extra and pour in and lend that information. Right now we have a major disconnect. And if the men who are fathers would just pour into other young men, right, that's around their kids, and then pour into other men that come around their grandkids, and take a leadership approach when it comes to boys. What I found is most people will listen to a father and a stepfather when he's not on trying to hit the auntie or the mama. Right. I think you find a better relationship because a lot of times, a lot of people, that's what they do. Right. They pray me in our mentoring program. You can't fraternize. I'm clear there. And Noodles, where I come from, I was a player, right. But never in my 40 years of working with kids fraternize with any of those children's mothers.
So with that being said, my brother, you know what? What side of town did you grow up on, bro?
I grew up on 8 Mile. I'm an 8 Mile baby.
8 Mile. What high school you were at?
So I graduated from Ferndale High School.
Ferndale High School.
My brother and sister, my other brother, they all went to Montfort. My cousin, my cousin Keith Jones.
Oh, for sure.
You know Mitchell my cousin Mitchell Jones.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we out of Montfort.
How do people get a hold of you, bro? Give me your information. How do they follow Dr. Calvin Mann? How do they get a hold of you?
CalvinTMann.com.
Is that plain and simple?
CalvinTMann.com.
You know what, brother?
Let's talk.
I want to thank you for joining me on Spending Time with Noodles.
Man, I appreciate this.
It's very eye-opening. This is only the beginning of more to come.
I like to pontificate something.
I know you do, and you do such a fantabulous job of it. Let me say that, Dr. Calvin Mann. This has been your guy, dear old Noodles Nolan. I want to thank y'all for tuning in to this episode with Dr. Calvin Mann. My God, this is only the beginning of us as black men reaching out to our young kings to pour into them. Why? It's God's work. Love, peace, don't need no hair grease.